Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I want to do a quick preview of Space Kraken. This is a project on Kickstarter by Markus Geiger, and it's getting ready to wrap up, but I just recently received this prototype, so I want to do a quick run through to just give you an overview of how it works so that hopefully you have just enough time to back, or maybe they'll have some late pledge options for you. So let's check out Space Kraken. So first, a very quick overview of the Kickstarter project. As you can see, it's just about a day left in this project, 25 hours to go. But of their $12,122 goal, they're at almost $150,000 raised. So they're in good shape. This is a science fiction dungeon crawler, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the page, but I just want you to see it quickly. You can see Markus Geiger is the creator, and this is a game that's kind of RPG-like game that's book-driven. And so he calls his system a Cryptid Game Master, CGM, and I'll show you how it works. On the page, you can see all the different features of the game, the story behind it. In short, there was a collaborative project in the future where they created this giant kraken to clean up the oceans, and there was a conflict on the earth between different countries, and there was nuclear warfare, and the kraken then was under attack, and they thought it was dead, but actually the nuclear impact created its rapid evolution to be able to jump through some sort of a wormhole and travel through space. And now they've had to flee the Earth because it's destroyed, and they're in space and they're running across the Kraken and the Kraken's offspring, I guess, and having these adventures and having to explore these different worlds that they're discovering. So you can see they've achieved quite a few of the different stretch goals. And down here, you can see some of the art and some of the other things that are included. Real quick, I'll stop at that point, but you can see here there are some different objects here. I thought this was really clever. This financial hardship, you can back the print and play version for $11 just because you're interested, but you just can't quite afford the full $24. So less than half off, or sorry, more than half off if you are interested in that. And then the standard edition is about $48, 39 euros. And then the essential edition with more included is 65, 53 euros. And then you can get the deluxe edition for 69 euros or 84 US dollars. And you can see here they're adding soundtrack and some other features to it, an art book and a notepad. And then if you get up to the $121.99 level, then you're looking at receiving some extra books, compendiums about the worlds that you'll explore and some maneuvers that you can take. And so it just keeps expanding the amount of content. You can get the Epic Edition for $181 with basically all the gameplay stuff. And then if you want to go even further, your own story, you can start to integrate your own images into the game at various levels depending on how much you're willing to. You can even get painted as a hero. You can become an official crew member as part of the storyline. So all kinds of things. I'll let you check out the page if you're interested. And I'll show you how this book works here with the prototype that I was sent. And it's maybe a little bit less of a prototype and more of a demo book. So I'll show you how that works. And then just quickly here at the top again, you can see there's already nearly 2,000 backers. All right, so when you play Space Kraken, you're going to need some pencils with an eraser. You're going to need a 20-sided die and two 6-sided die, and you're going to need some scissors. And you won't be destroying materials with the scissors, but you're going to be cutting some flaps out. So let me just quickly give you a run through of the book, and then I'll show you a few things about how it works. So here at the very beginning, it gives you a little bit of a teaser about the storyline, tells you the features of the book, and then how you need to prepare and what kinds of things you need along with an index. And then we get into a little bit more of the backstory and how this Kraken was created and what sort of the intro to what your adventure is going to involve. Then you're going to choose your flight, and there's a variety of different options going from fairly simple to more complex and harder levels of play. And then this tells you a little bit more about the storyline and how you're going to set it up. And you're going to choose one line or one item from line 1, one item from line 2, one from 3, and one from 4. So there's just these codes in line 1. You can do 1 CD, 1 HH, 1 BU, or 1 NU. You're going to choose one of those, and then choose one from this column, one from. You're going to have these 4, and then you're going to put those. See how this book flips open. You're going to put those here. So line 1, you're going to put what you chose. So for instance, in line 1, if you choose to do 1 CD, you're going to take your pencil, and on line 1 you're going to write 1 CD, and then you're going to kind of set up the rest of your game that way. So line 2, 1XE, you're going to flip this back, and for line 2 you're going to go 1X, and I'll show you how that works here in a little bit as well. Over here you can see these CGM sheets. This is basically the coding charts to help you figure out what events you're going to experience, and then what kind of things are going to happen to you, what kind of abilities you're going to develop. Now there's also this page CGM commands that gives you shorthand to tell you, what the different icons and what the different symbols mean with a thorough explanation. So for instance, a lot of times you're going to see this exclamation mark which tells you it's an event. So for example, going back to this, if I look at my first line, I chose 1 CD. That means I'm going to go to the sheet number 1 here. I'm going to look at where C and D intersect, and it says exclamation AG. So that exclamation tells me I've got an event. So I'm going to open to the events, and they're in alphabetical and numerical order. So we've got A0 through A9, and then we've got double A through AZ, and then it starts with the B's and just keeps going. So we had exclamation AG, I believe it was. Forgot. Yes, AG. So if we go to the event AG, it says you've just entered the first system, the Kraken passed. Already the first scout ship in your way looks like a little Kraken and directly sends a radio signal before you can destroy it. It seems you finally found the first trace of the Kraken. Choose A for progress. Choose B, wait until some time goes before entering the system carefully. All right, so when you have these choices, you go back to the chart, and right here we see the intersection of C and D, that exclamation AG. There's 2 other codes right beside it. And we chose A, so we're going to choose the one immediately beside it. If we had chosen B, or I said I chose A. If I had chosen B, I'm going to choose the next one. So it's like, this is the event we went to, and this is my A choice and my B choice. So if I choose A to progress, I'm going to go to chart 3, NN. Here's chart 3. See where N and N combine. And that tells me I go directly to 1RS. So sometimes you're going to get a direction, and sometimes you're going to be just told where to go next to kind of follow the path, because there's overlapping storylines. So if I go to 1RS, I go to R and S, and I see exclamation A3, event A3. So then I turn back to A, I find A3, and then I read this and I make more choices. And over here I'm going to record any notes that I want, and then any other things that it tells me to record down through here. Right? And then I'm going to follow line 2 and the story that fills out, line 3, line 4, and then I'll have kind of my backstory and the intro to the events that I'm going to be following, and I'll just keep adding to that as I go. So that's kind of how we track our progress. You can see here interlink memory, so you're going to be tracking other things here as you go through and advance in the storyline, and star map locations down here as you do your travel. So most of the time, once you get things going, you're going to leave this line tracker open and flipped out, and you'll be flipping to these sheets to get your codes, and you'll be reading through these events as you go. Now again, this is just a demo book. It's not the full storyline that will come in the regular Space Kraken, so there's just a few pages of events here just to help you kind of get a feel for it as a demo. Now, when you start wanting to travel, this is how you determine your locations, and this is where the dice comes in. So you're going to roll a d6. So I got a 5, which means I'm going to be in space. That's the kind or the type of location I'm going to be going to. And then I need to figure out what the atmosphere outside my space shuttle is. So I'm going to roll another d6, and it says 4. So 3 and 4, there's no atmosphere outside. So I'm in space, there's no atmosphere. And then inside, I'm going to roll another d6. 4 tells me there's no atmosphere inside either. And then, so you're just going to roll the dice and follow where you're going to go. When it's time to go to a map, it says roll 2d6 to determine the map. So I roll 2d6, 4 and 4. So 4 and 4 intersect on map B. So if I were going to travel to map B, I'm going to turn back here to the maps. There's a lot of rules, and I'll show you these here in a second too. But here's the map legend with a bunch of information about what all the icons mean. And then here are the maps themselves. So here is map B. So here is the map that I'm going to be exploring, and it's got all these little colors and letters and things that you can look on the map legend here to understand. So that's a little bit about how you'd be traveling. Now let me look through a few more parts of this book here. So after we get through this location generator, we can see there's always a lot of art and information. Here's a combat quick sheet, and you can see how it's out here on the edge. And I can just, if I know I'm going to be doing combat, I can leave it flipped out, and then maybe I'm going to be fighting one of these bad guys, okay, one of these Kraken. Now here's where the scissors comes in. You can maybe see these little dotted lines. If it tells me I'm fighting this creature, I can cut along this dotted line. So I'll just demonstrate that real quick. All right. And so now I can have that creature showing because that's the one that I'm actually fighting against. All right. And then there's a lot of other enemies here. And so there's page after page. These are a bunch of different kind of Kraken enemies. And then there's the gray enemies, more gray enemies, more gray enemies. So there's just a bunch of things. There's some insectoids, more insectoids, more. There's the lost enemies. So you can see there's all different kinds of enemies you might be coming across, different kinds of beasts. And then now we get to the enemy skills and hero skills. So at the beginning of the game, you're also going to be setting up your heroes. And if ever you're researching or fighting an enemy, the enemy skills are described here on this page. So you might have, like I said, let's say we know we're going to be fighting this enemy, and leave that out. And then I can look at the codes here and then read what those enemy skills are for this particular tentacle kraken that I would be trying to fight. For the hero skills, you're going to be setting up your heroes. And in the back of the book here, I'll just flip forward here past the maps for a minute. I'll show you this other stuff here in a minute. Here's where you can initiate your space flight, and then you go back to those location pages that I showed you. Here's the instructions on how you do it. Go to those location pages and then record where you're going. But this is the part of the book that explains the characters. And they have some characters that are set up for you, but you can also use those hero. It's a lot of flipping back and forth. I wish I had some tabs or something. I think that may be something that comes with the Kickstarter is tabs for the books. But I can set up my own heroes with a certain number of points, and in the rules it explains how many points you get. So I can either use the pre-created ones, or these also have flip outs where I could choose the heroes I want, and I could actually fill this in with what they suggest, or I could come back here to these hero skills and fill them in as I choose according to the rules and the restrictions of how those heroes work. So for instance, let me just show you quickly how this might look in a combat. In a combat, I may have my spaceship showing out here to the side, and then I would have my crew here showing out to the side. And then I'm going to have my space combat sheet here. And then my tracker. So you can see this is all spread out. I've got my tracker over to keep track of things. I've got the enemy I'm fighting. I've got the combat rules and the combat sheet. I've got my heroes. I've got my spaceship information, and it's all just overlapping in this spread out format. So I can kind of see everything at once. And same thing with the enemies, as I could trim them out and just have the one showing. You start off with 3 heroes, so I could choose the ones I want, cut the ones, fold the ones I'm not using underneath, and have the ones I'm using sticking out. All right, so that's a real quick overview of how some of this fits together and how you might have several pages and parts of pages showing at once. Let me give you just a little bit more insight into what's in this book. So after you get through the enemies and look at these enemy and hero skills, you also have achievements and weapons and items that you would be equipping into your heroes as well. And then after that, you have the rules section. And the rules section is a pretty long part here. So all of these pages are the rules. So there's maybe 20 or so pages of rules explaining, and it's mostly text. There's a few pictures, but it's mostly text explaining the rules behind this. Like I said, around 20 pages or so explaining the rules. It's right in the middle of the book. And at first I thought, well, why are the rules in the middle? But then when I saw how everything flips out and you want to be able to see different things, they've got the enemies in the front and the heroes and the spacecraft in the back, and all the things you need to know in the middle that you may need to have opened up. Like I showed you before, the map legend to help you make sense of these different maps. There's space station maps, on the surface of a planet maps, mining station, dungeon, core planet, more in-space maps. And then there's the quest master, which is another aspect of the game that you can use, and this is the directions and the flow for how you use the quest master. And then again, here is the details for when you're in combat, both the rules and then the tracking chart there for keeping organize what's happening during your combat. And then again, this is how you initiate the space flight. We've got our heroes here that you can choose from, and then our spaceship, and then back here we just have some nice art right? So hopefully that helps you see a little bit about how this game would play. It's very RPG-like, so it's not a traditional board game. It's more of roll the dice, see what your character's development is, make a decision to travel somewhere, uncover a treasure or an artifact or a skill ability or a weapon, or face an enemy and then have to combat the enemy. And so between reading through those events and rolling the dice and choosing your paths, kind of in like one of those choose your own adventure stories, you're going to be going through this adventure in a very RPG like format, but with this almost ISS Vanguard feel of having all of these heroes and enemies and your ship equipment and status all showing up in this book. So a very clever design, one that I've not seen before, and I haven't had a chance to play ISS Vanguard, but this one, I did watch a lot of videos on that when that GameFound project was out, and this reminded me a lot of that kind of project, but with a little bit of a different feel and definitely a unique flair. So hopefully this was helpful for you to get a feel for what Space Kraken is like. Hopefully you have time. I know I'm just putting this out hours before it finishes, but if you see this right away, you may want to go check out that Kickstarter page. If not, hopefully they'll have a late pledge available. I think this is a very unique opportunity for you to investigate and see if it might be the kind of game for you. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be terrific if you give me a thumbs up down below and like the video. I would love it if you'd subscribe to the channel as well. If you know more about Space Kraken or you have questions, you can send those to me in the comments and I'll be glad to interact with you down there. And as always, thanks for watching. This is Bill Indiana signing off.